Hi, I'm Victoria. I'm an energy worker and an intuitive here in New York. And if you saw my previous video, I spoke about people who have a tendency to attract narcissists. Goodbye. And what I read in a person who is actually a narcissist. And I myself was involved with a narcissist, and I would like to tell you my experiences being an intuitive. And well, you might say, well, since you were an intuitive, didn't you know this person was up to something or had these tendencies? And the answer is yes. But when you are with this sort of person, you are always sort of swimming upstream because they are essentially an actor. And when I see clients, they validate my feelings. I say, you are feeling this, or you are feeling that. You've been through this, or you've been through that. And they are open to validating what you are feeling. But when you're dealing with somebody who is an actor, they will lie and say, no, you're wrong. I didn't do this, or I'm not feeling this. So you could be the Long Island medium, feel and sense exactly what this person is about, but unless you get validation from them or people around them that they are behaving this way, it's up to you to sense these patterns in their behavior and say, I recognize this and I'm getting out of this situation. So, first of all, once again, what attracts a narcissist to a person like me or you, who might be an empath? A person who is very compassionate, usually roots for the underdog, and tries to find the goodness in people and empathize with issues that they're going through. Well, that's the point. They see this. They recognize that you are a person who's probably extremely tolerant and that they can play the victim card, and you will zoom in on that and try to help them. So these are people that will strike up conversations with you or get involved with you. And always start out by saying, my life is so hard. I had a horrible time today. I experienced this, that, and the other thing. And you're a good listener. And you'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Yeah, I can empathize with you. And that's how they hone in on the fact that you're a sucker. You're a sucker if only they will play the victim. And that's how they hook you. So when this sort of situation arose, and I'm going to say relationship in quotations because it's not a relationship. The person is just playing a role and you are the audience that they're manipulating. So, when the person started contacting me, it was fast and furious, and I was tipped off to something was not right by this bond that occurred so quickly, and I wasn't really into it as much as they seemed into it. And it just progressed very, very fast. And at first I said, this person is calling me more than my best friend. My best friends are calling me more than any other boyfriend I ever had calls me. And that in itself was rather unusual. I should have listened to it, but a trait in a narcissist is that they're very charismatic. A lot of times they could have a lot of friends that sort of attest to the fact that they're very social people, very outgoing. The friends a lot of times are very superficial friends, but you might even have these friends in common with them. And if you say to somebody who you are friends with, they're also friends with, they might say, oh, this person's real normal. They're just sort of eccentric, and you might notice things. And the person says, don't worry about it. It's just the way they act, So what about their energy? When you're with somebody that you really click with, somebody that you're friends with for a long time, you're in a room with them, you feel comforted by their presence. You laugh a lot. You felt like you've known them for a million years. And when you're in the room with them, you feel like they've got your back. You have a great time and you leave feeling the same way you felt when you were with them, that you just feel great, you feel uplifted. But what I felt when I was in the room with this person was kind of like I was walking on eggshells all the time. I never felt completely comforted by this person's presence. I felt that there was always some sort of like cloud hanging over me. Like if I said something wrong, I would kind of be reprimanded or something. I just never felt secure. It wasn't that uplifting feeling that I feel with a lot of my friends. And maybe you felt that way too. And that I felt from the very beginning. And that's something to pay attention to. Another thing is I always felt like my boundaries were being tested. I felt like this person would call it really odd times, like maybe on a schedule, and if the call went beyond this specific time, whoop, gotta hang up. And I thought that was really weird. And it's like they could call me at any time, but I could not call them. They were always too busy. Their life was too important. My life was important too. I mean, I had a really stressful job and a lot of people depended on me, but they felt like they could call me anytime, but I couldn't call them. So that's something really important to pay attention to. But yeah, so energetically, do you feel very differently, or did you feel very differently being in their presence than the presence of people that you truly have a strong bond with? You know, that's a really important thing. So yes, they will prey on people who are very empathetic, who are good listeners, who will respond strongly when they act as though, or when they're saying that something bad has happened in their life. But how do they respond when you say something is upsetting you? If you're talking to them on the phone and you say, oh, I've had a horrible day, you know, I've had this traumatic experience, do you hear crickets? Do you hear crickets? Do they speak with a lot of compassion in their voice? Or is it, oh, I'm so sorry that happened, and then they go right to another subject that relates to them? That is something that you should pay attention to, because most of the time they want to focus the conversation on themselves. They might draw you in somehow into the conversation, but only as it pertains to how you can help them with what they're doing in their life. And that's very important. So I think there are a lot of red flags that I did see. But once again, you are swimming upstream with these people, because the people that they surround themselves with are under the impression that they're wonderful people. And even if you might be friends with some of these people, they put on an act for them as well. So it's really hard to get validation, and you have to listen to yourself. But repetitive patterns of behavior are always going to be your savior. So if you see things over and over again, pay attention to them. So are they always testing your boundaries? You say, please don't talk about this subject around me, and yet they continue to talk about the subject. Or do you catch them in lies? The lies might be so insignificant at first. They might say something like, I bought this coat at this store, when you know in fact they did not buy it at that store. And then they're just really small white lies. And then they become bigger and bigger. And you know, when I was researching, I saw these behavior patterns starting to crop up, where there were the lies, the testing boundaries, and then gaslighting. And I'm like, well, what is this gaslighting about? And I Googled it, and it was very vague. It was just like, oh, these people are going to try to make you doubt your sanity. They're going to deny things that you think you saw. They're going to say you have got a horrible memory. No. Do they place objects in certain areas and tell you that they didn't put them there? Well, that happened to me. Things were put in this person's apartment after an argument that pertained to the argument. They weren't there before, and then I saw them, called them out on it. He said, oh, they were there before. No, they were not. Clothing was hidden from me that I was looking for. Looked in one particular spot over and over again, wasn't there. I complained I couldn't find it, found it after I had complained about it. Things were placed in my laundry bin that weren't mine. They were another woman's clothing, trying to make me go cuckoo, but, I'm an intuitive. I know these things. It wasn't there. Come on now. So then it gets to the point where they are berating your intelligence. Has this ever happened to you? So you call them out on their behavior and you say, you were lying about this. Or, I saw this and you denied it. And then they start yelling at you. They become very defensive and berate your intelligence and say, you so-and-so, you stupid this, you idiot, blah, blah, blah. That is never acceptable. So that's another sort of behavior pattern. And if it happens again and again and again, you say, don't ever berate my intelligence. Because you're an intelligent person. And nobody should ever put you down in that sense. So behavior patterns will always lead you to the point where you draw the line. You say you have had enough, and in spite of how intuitive you might be, you're always going to an extent, doubt your intuition. But those patterns are the thing that's going to draw you to a conclusion that this person's a narcissist. And you can't really, I'm sorry to say, you could have the best friends in the world, but if they're friends with the narcissist, they're not going to see the same behaviors that you did. And so you can't really rely on them. So what you're going to have to do is write down all those behavior patterns that you're seeing. And I would say if you have a feeling from the very beginning, and it's a consistent feeling, that when you're in a room with these people or talking on the phone, and they don't make you feel like your best friends who have your back, or your family members who you feel very comforted when in their presence, this person isn't even worth being a friend with. Because, if you're going to be their partner, they should also be your best friend. So I hope this has helped. There's so much more to discuss about this topic, but I think you probably see the signs. And these are some of the signs that I've seen. So use your intuition. I wish I would have used mine, but as I said, you could be the most awesome psychic in the world and still be caught up in this situation. Thanks.